If you own a bandsaw, you probably have already watched multiple videos on the proper setup. And the first thing they show you is to pull out your square and ensure that your table is square with your blade. You do this and make your cut only to find out that your cut is a little off from top to bottom. Well, most just chalk it up to a dull blade or just not enough tension on the blade while they were cutting. But I want to show you the most overlooked setting for getting the perfect even rip. It's the fence. If you're like me, you assume that the fence is square because it was made at the factory with precision equipment. Well, it was, but that still does not mean that there can be some deviation, as shown by my speed square here. Now, my rail that the fence sits on does not move, and the holes that the screws are in are very precise, so adjusting them is completely out of the question. So this little hack can get you back to ripping with such precision, and it won't cost you a dime. So unscrew and slide off your fence, and let's take it to the workbench. There are two hex bolts that attach the rail slide to the fence itself. Loosen these two bolts. Don't take them all the way off, just loosen them about 1/16 of an inch. Now, find an old school flashcard and place it between the slide and the fence. Then tighten back up your bolts. Now, if your fence had a bigger gap when you were checking it with the speed square, you can fold the card in half and then place it between the slide and the fence. Once done, tighten your bolts back up. Ensure the lock nuts are completely flat and then with an X-Acto knife, cut off the excess paper. Take your fence back to the table and slide it down the rail. Now, before you check to see that the hack was enough to completely square your fence, make sure you tighten down the fence so it's not loose while checking. Now, if you can make your speed square rock back and forth against your fence is still not square, and you will need to repeat this process. But if it is stable, we can now take time to do a test line cut to see if there's any variation in your cut. When I cut design inlays into wood, I prefer to leave them intact with the wood so they are not damaged. I have more luck and success cutting them free with the bandsaw. So my test piece will be a Seminole logo for a cheese board. This cut will need to be about 1/8, but no more or no less, so I don't go too thin or the piece is not cut free. This is a test of how well your blade and fence are perpendicular. So I will run this piece up to the blade and then I will pull it back and check the measurement on each end. Happy with my test cut, I continue with the rest of my cut. As you can see, your fence now allows you to make those professional cuts to the exact measurements you desire. So after you set your bandsaw fence, you can get really thin cuts. So I wanted to show you this piece. I wanted to see how thin I could shave off a piece, and this is practically paper thin. And I will try to zoom in on this to show you how exactly thin this is. I'll have to break out the calipers because it's less than 1/16 of an inch. So if you've watched this far and wanted to see how the project turned out, keep watching.